Hello and welcome to new step-by-step tutorial. This video you have just watched was created entirely in Blender, almost completely using the Procedural Backrooms Generator. It is a geometry node modifier setup that I created. But while I was thinking about this tutorial, I had one dilemma: to make a tutorial on how I created the modifier setup or about how I created the animation. A tutorial about the modifier setup would mainly focus on geometry nodes, which wouldn't be suitable for beginners or users with less Blender experience. But the thing is that it is not necessary to know geometry nodes or to be advanced Blender user to create good renders. You can let someone else to do the hard work for you and create tools like this one we will use in this tutorial that speed up your workflow. In fact, that's the essence of Blender, using tools to work smarter and faster, not harder. But even with ready-made tools like this one, it is still important to understand the basics of Blender, so you can later avoid potential issues or customize and adjust certain things to your liking, or at the end to create an animation like this one from introduction, because the tool creates a scene but not an animation. That's why I decided to keep this tutorial simplified. With the help of the generator, we will create the scene and lighting. Later we will animate camera, the paper doll and the leaking effect, and the plan is to put everything together at the end into final animation with sound effects. We can now start actually with the project. Here we have references. These are just stills from upcoming movie, and I use this for reference for my teaser. They are almost identical, and I have intention to create similar spaces like from this official teaser. The main tool I will share with you is this Backrooms Generator. If you download this before, my recommendation is to delete that file and re-download this, because I have few fixes. And of course, if you are new here, you need or I need to copy this with Ctrl+C, and we have this Backrooms tutorial folder. I will paste this here, Backrooms animation, or how you want. We can now jump inside Blender. You can customize your Blender workspaces. Of course, you can change this, but this is how I set up this. I want to have these references inside my Blender file. To put this inside Blender, you need make one workspace here. I need image editor here. You can just drag and drop this inside Blender. We have reference image here, and we can now start building this space here. You can note that we have like 5 main objects here. First 3 are actually generators. Let's, for example, select this ceiling. You can see that you can adjust this. Because this will be animation, I don't want now manually place this camera. I will for now quickly create this animation. We actually just have sliding camera from left to right, and we can create this with a few clicks. For this I need a timeline here. I will go to frame 0. Now I will move camera to left. I will press N, I here and I here. We can now go to last frame and move camera on right. It is not important where for now, because we can adjust this later. And now I will press I. If we now press space, we get this. This is now too fast, and how we can slow this? I will for now set this to 500. Now it is double slower, so we have one room here, another will be here, third one will be here, and later we can just move camera here and start working with third one. For now I want stick to frame 0. You can see that we have this slow start and then camera speed up. To get this interpolation types, we have this by default, this Bezier. You can play with this if you go to graph editor. And if you press T, you can set this, for example, to linear. Now we get constant speed. If you like this, you can change this, but I don't like, so you can press T, Bezier, And if you want this transition to be faster, you can just maybe drag this handle here. I didn't use this last time because I like these default settings. Let's now start with creating these walls. This backroom walls is actually main tool here. Now I will delete everything except one wall here. So just disable this for now because we want to focus only on these walls. This ceiling generator, for now you can press H just to hide this. You can see this weird lighting that's from this volumetric view. I just use this emission node. Maybe you can note some small yellowish haze here. Not too much, but I think it is better than nothing. But, not so important, just to know that this is here. Before and after. Without this lighting, it is very hard to see these rooms. Because I want to keep this disabled, I will for now increase this lighting so we can see better what we are doing. Now we can actually start shaping these walls. Select only these faces, Ctrl I, delete faces. We can now move this to about here, EX, EY. You can switch between vertex, edge and face selection with 1, 2 or 3. 3 is for face selection, and we can move this here, maybe to here, and now EX. We get similar things like we have here, Ctrl R, one edge here, EX, Shift D and then X, move one here, EX, Ctrl R, EX, EY, delete faces, connect this with F, let's see, Ctrl R, delete faces, move this until the end. So you can also move this on X, move this one here. We also have this molding here. I add this option. If you just increase this, you get this molding. This wooden part here, I didn't create this procedurally, but we can just manually add this. You can pick this from here. For example, you can just place this here, or you can from asset browser bring this here. RX90. If you go to material preview, you can know that this is unwrapped properly because unwrap is object based. So we have this empty object which actually control this unwrap. Everything you do in edit mode will be correct. GY. And we have one column here. So I will grab this one and this should go to about here. Next is ceiling. So we hide this and let's now unhide this. We have here panel on x-axis, which is this, panel on y-axis. We need more panels on y-axis. And I will place this here. Now we can select this and we can just move to this edge here. And we have this world lighting set to white. That's the reason why we see everything here. With Alt D to create instance of this. Even this is instance, geometry node works in a way that each of these are independent. And I will turn off lights for this. I will set this light on to all to 0. So we have just panel, we have panel with light on and panel which don't work. So if you go to render preview, and what I need to do now, I will go with numpad/key, select this object. So we have panel without lights. This is just panels. So I will just move this up. Instead of this panel with lights, I will plug this here. And now you can see what we get. We actually replace these lights with this panel. So we have another geometry node setup, which we modify a little. And you can also know that we still have these lights here, but we can just set this on-off lights to 0. Now we have same as in this reference here. You can also note these chrome metal parts. To change this, we need to select main ceiling generator, which is this one with asset browser. These hollow settings are actually drivers which are connected to this shader editor. You can see that these are drivers, and we can drive these drivers only when we select main object, which is this one here. So now we have these metal frames, and if I now set this all to 1, now this become metal. If I set this roughness to 0, it will be more shiny, 0.3, and the roughness to 0.5. And we can play with lighting. So we have here area lamp intensity, which is, if I set this for example to 10, we will almost lose all lights. But there is one thing you need to know. So we have this emission planes, which is this value here. So if I set this to 0, we don't want this to 0 because then this doesn't look like light. So we just want this to look normal in camera. If we set this here 20, we will get a lot of fireflies, which are not so visible now, but because we have this denoiser, but you can see that this crash our render. This is very heavy to calculate, so we just want these emission planes to look right in camera, but we want to keep this value low. 5 is okay, but I want to go lower with this value. And now we can set lighting with these area lamps, which actually speed up our render, because when we have more lights we get less fireflies, maybe 120. Small walls here, GX, Shift D, Y. We will now build second room. I will now find another reference here. I think we can maybe build this one, and we can also take maybe this part here, which I like. First I will move camera to about here, so this wall is too big. EY. Let's move camera to about here. EX, EY again. Now we have a space for our room. I think I will make a hallway here. Let's go with Control R, and we can go with EY, but I want to delete this ceiling and this part down. Move this to about here. Select this face, Control Numpad plus to expand selection, and we can maybe put this in middle. We can build these walls. Control R, maybe to loop cuts, EX. Now we have these walls, but we want to make this more visible. You can increase brightness here. One here, EX. We can place one small wall here. With tab we can make this bigger, and if you want put this wooden part, we can just grab this. We can place this here. RY90. Control A, apply rotation. So every time when you change rotation in object mode, just be sure to apply this. Let's see. With holding shift we can be more precise, and we can move this until this intersect. Tab to go to edit mode, Control R. Select this face and EY. No, EX. But because I already pressed E, I can now just go with X. What we can do next, we can go to this reference image 10, and we can build this part which I like. Control R in this part will not work. This sometimes happen, and what I usually do in this case is we are in edit mode, so that means that we can use K for knife. I will go with K here, and I will just stick this here, and you can note that this is not straight line. Now I can grab this and SZ0. Now this is perfectly straight, and I can now go with double tap G, so G twice. EX. Alt DX or Shift DX in this case is, I think, same. And let's see, this intersection I don't like. Let's move to about here. And I will just grab this ceiling without light. Shift DX or Alt DX. And now we need to move this down. So GZ, let's move this down. And to unhide this you can click here or Alt H. What I do last time, I bring these chairs here, and these are not same, but they are similar, like chairs I model in the oldest view project. I have this the oldest view assets. You can find this on my stores. I will just show you quickly these stores. We have here a lot of these stores, 28 I think. So if you are interested, you can take a look on this, and I will just quickly show you this wall. So I build completely this wall, so we have this wall, but we need the ceiling. Okay, this is how this look, and We have a whole more from the oldest view with animation. So if you need these project files, you can find this on my stores. But let's now open this assets rest. And here we have a chair which I model. Okay, I think this one. And I also record tutorial how I model this chair. If you want, you can find also that tutorial. Let's now go with paste here. Okay, and you can know that we have a lot of chairs on ceiling. This is one of most common errors which you can get when you work with this asset. When we go with right click paste, we actually put new object in this collection. But this collection scatter objects on ceiling, and we scatter this chair on ceiling. So what you need to do, you can set this to scene collection, or you can create new collection, for example other. In this collection we will put all things we import in this project. So just put this here and you are safe. If we hold shift, we can move this precisely. We obviously want to go on left a little. I think this value is good. We can also bring saturation to make this a little more red. We have this carpet. We have this density factor. So with this we just scatter more of this dirt. This transparency is actually how this is visible. So if we go all to 0, this is completely transparent. If we go all to 1, this is visible. And we have this scale, so you can see that we make this dirt bigger. And what we actually scatter, we scatter something which is in this carpet dirt folder. So if I select this, we actually have this overlays which look like this. I didn't use any noise texture or Musgrave texture to make this computer generated dirt, so I actually try find what dirt can go to carpet, and I make this image overlays. To make this more visible, you can just increase this contrast. But if you want to make this more transparent, we can just move this closer to black. In Backrooms movie, we have this formula here. So we have one light and then 3 panels, which is not light. So maybe we don't see these lines, but we have 1, 2, 3 off, and then again light. And on x-axis we have every other, so 1 light, 1 panel, 1 light. You can change this here. This is x-axis. If we set this to 1, each of these will be a light panel, but if we set this to 2, we get what we have here. If we set this to 3, we will get 2 empty and 1 light. To get same like in movie, we need to set this to 2x4. Panel size, I try measure this, and I think they use 1.2 by 1.2. This looks stretch, but it is not. That's just because camera perspective. We can see here that they are same on x and y axis. Light random. With this we also get random value here. On-off lights, we talked about this before. Seed, of course, you can play also with seed. When you see this gray or half transparent values, which are all this, that means that these are drivers. And drivers are always connected with main objects. For example, we can duplicate this ceiling, but they are always connected with main object. For example, if I change this value, nothing happen. That means that we need select main object, so first one, which is this one with asset browser icon. So select this one, and now if we change this to 30, we will affect whole this space. We have here this glass, but with this we can choose how much this glass will be transparent. So if we set this to 1, it will be completely transparent. If you set this to 0, we will get this glass. We now have this glass roughness. If you set this glass roughness to 0, you actually see just this bump. So this is not roughness, but we can also play with roughness here. Basically, you can choose look you like here. Ceiling stain dirt. So this is same like on carpet, but I just found different overlays. So we mostly have this water stain or something. we can make maybe this bigger, and if we look this in solid preview, you can actually see what we do. But in normal cases you don't want make this so visible, maybe 0.3 or something, just to make this effect subtle. We are done with ceiling, and we have backroom walls. Wall thickness is this, so basically wall thickness, you can hold shift to move this slightly. Dirt overlays, it is same like on ceiling and floor. So dirt overlay, we can of course play with scale. You can maybe just type here some value, it will be a little faster. We get this effect. Seed, so we can change seed. Leaking, I will now set this to 0. Leaking are things which go from ceiling to down. So if I increase this leaking, we actually add on this part only, and we have different overlays which look like this one. We can make maybe this less intense, 0.3. Dirt scale, so if you want make this bigger, smaller, you can change this value. This first option is backrooms pattern. If you set this to 1, you will clearly see this backroom pattern here. But if you keep this all to 0, we still have these backroom patterns, but they are actually how they should be, very subtle. But if you want to increase this and make this little more visible, you can set maybe 0.3 or something. Brightness, so this is how this wall is bright or dark. Saturation, so if you increase this to 1, they will be more yellowish. You can know that they are now a little more yellowish. Bump, backrooms pattern, so this will be bump. I will set this to 1. Bump based on this backrooms pattern. Bump seam, this is this seam. Wallpaper scale controller, this is empty object, and if you now scale this, you can see that we actually change this UV. Concrete glossiness, if we set this to 1, we actually increase roughness closer to 0, so this should be more shiny, but this is also based on concrete textures. And last one is concrete dirt, so if we set this to 1, you should get same dirt we have on this floor, which I showed you before. You can see some of these imperfections on my 4K video, so you can, let's stop somewhere here, you can clearly see this concrete glossiness. I think I set this maybe to 0.2. We can also see this seam here, we can see this dirt, but I just keep this subtle. You can also see on ceiling this dirt. So this is pretty subtle, but you also can note a lot of these imperfections here. You can see these dirts here, this concrete glossiness, and these seams. We have one seam here, and we have one seam here, another here, and I also increased this bump, this backrooms pattern a little, maybe just 0.2 or 0.1. We have this ceiling. When I work on this teaser, I try to get closer as much I can to reference images or references from film. In film, we have these lights which are completely flat, so we don't see any details, but we can see these office light panels here clearly, especially if we remove this. I will select this ceiling generator, and if I increase this glass transparency, we can see that I model these office lights. And I think this is much closer to reality. This is how these lights actually look, but because this is film, I think they use something like soft diffuser or something to get how I can achieve this, because we are trying to get closer to this reference image here. These objects here are actually this panel light on. So we have this object, we clearly need edit this object, but I will for now hide this, not hide, I will actually duplicate this, Shift Z, And I will do same what they do in reality. I will press H, so now we have this object. Basically they put something like light diffuser on top to make this light soft. So we can try do this, new material here, and we need assign this emission and transparent, because I want control transparency of this. Now if we plug this here to surface, so if we set this all to 0, we get this emission. If we set this all to right, we get what we have before. I don't have time to mess with this, so I will just copy these values. Now if we move this, we actually get something similar which they do. We can maybe try sample this tint here. This look like little reddish. I think they have this halation effect on these edges, but we will do maybe this in post. So because I want affect color, I will increase saturation to here. Last time I go with value of 0.9. This is actually how I achieve this effect. Now you have just one more controller, so if you want this look or this one, you can play with this slider. And of course, if you change this color, this will also affect this tint. I will now recommend you one of my add-ons which I do before a few months, which is SuperScatterOnSurface. Just to show you that you can combine this Backrooms Generator with any other assets. So we can maybe have fun with this. I will not share this with you, but I think if you follow me, you already have this SuperScatterOnSurface. If you don't have, you can find this on my networks and download, but I think it will not be included in this pack. I have instructional video how to use this SuperScatterOnSurface, so I will not now explain each of these steps. This is actually asset browser object, so I will go to SuperScatterOnSurface, and we have this plane scatter and curve scatter. If I now import this plane scatter, I need to be sure again that this is in other folder. Okay, now actually nothing happened visually, but something happened in background. If I now select this object, this scatter is actually geometry node modifier. Make this smaller, and I will go with another modifier, geometry nodes, and now I can select this SuperScatterOnSurface. We scatter something on this surface. We actually scatter this soil. Why we scatter this? Because we have this asset value set to 0, so we basically scatter this. If we set this high Q, we actually scatter this high Q object, but by default we scatter this one low poly, and we have here I think 75 or something, 79 objects we can scatter here. You can take a look all these objects, so we have from nature to trash, all to trees, rocks, this dirt. All these are high quality photo scans. For example, if we want to scatter this McDonald's trash, we can type here 44, so asset 44. Let's go with maybe grass. Grass is from 4 to 14 or something. So if I set here 4, we get this grass. Okay, this is very massive room, so we can maybe increase scale. Here is scale. I will set this to 1.6 to make this little bigger, but we need a lot of particles to see this, so if I set this to 100, so this will be grass 1. Duplicate, and when you duplicate this, you want to change seed, because you don't want scatter in same position, which is this. So just change seed, and now we can change asset, maybe 7. We have this type of grass, maybe this old grass, which is 15. So asset 15, and we get this. Now we can make one test render to see. We get this nice render, and if I enable this high Q, so I basically make two versions. One is more low poly mesh, another one have more mesh, but mesh is not only difference, I also improve shader. So I add something like transmission, subsurface scattering, and all these things will look a little more realistic. So I want also high Q here. This is before, this is after. We have a little better reaction to light. Maybe this one is not good example, so I will set this to 5. This look nice, but when we have these assets which should be same size, we can just go to advanced options and scale. I will set scale to 1, and we also have here scale offset, so it will take this value here, but it will also add randomization here. So if I set this to 0, I will increase density here, maybe just few of this. And let's duplicate this one more time, maybe these big bags here. This is another test, and I feel that we have a lot of this chromatic aberration, glow effects. Maybe we can reduce this side compositor, so Alt V to zoom this in, just move this little more on left. This should go maybe 0.005, something like this, and I now show you how we can scatter this. But what if we want paint this? I can paint this in 2 ways. First one is masking. If I go here, I can create new and I can call this grass. Okay, now I need go to, let's see, texture paint. I think now we should select, here we have selected material, which is not what we want single image, and we should find this grass image, and now we can paint here. Okay, but we paint with black. Black is value of 0, we want paint with value of 1 or something between. So we can now paint with this tool. If you set this to 1, you will paint with 100% density, which also affect this value here. So if I set this to 100, it will be more dense, but now we can reduce this here. So if you set this to black, you will actually remove this. But there is another way we can paint this. I actually in part of this SuperScatterOnSurface add this curve scatter. We don't have curve scatter here because I didn't import this. This is only in my asset browser on another location on my computer, so just drag this here. Again M, other. Now we import this and we can start working. Now we should find this curve scatter. Because this is curve scatter, we need curve object. So I will remove this, shift right click, shift A, any curve object. So for example Bezier. This object look like it is selected, but it is not. Just click here, it must be yellowish. So we have these curve properties, and now we know that we select this object, geometry nodes, curve scatter. You can play with this curve. This is not what I recommend. What I recommend is to go to edit mode, A, delete vertices. Now we delete this curve, but we are still in curve properties. You can see here. What we can do now, we can select this draw tool and we can draw this. Okay, but you can know that this is in 3D perspective, so we need to go to Ctrl Z, we need draw this on surface. So now we can just draw this, and we have here some of this option, almost same like before. Okay, why I draw this here? Because I think this curve is in the ceiling collection. So other, and we can now continue drawing this like this one. This is density, this is offset from curve. If you set this all to 0, we get these straight lines, but we want offset here. Offset from surface, scale max, so if you want scale this, so I will click high Q so we get a high quality grass. We have all these things you can play with, but I explain everything in instructional video, so this is not instructional video. You can call this grass 1. Duplicate seed, always change seed, and we can play with another assets. This is result we get. You can search on SuperScatterOnSurface and you can find this. It is not so expensive. In this part of tutorial we will model this, or I think better word is cut this paper doll, and this will be very easy to model and also animate. Now I will go with new Blender file, numpad 1 to go to front orthographic, and image mesh plane RX90, and we can go to material preview, and what I do last time, I just go with K, and now we can just start cutting this. Select this, Ctrl I, delete faces. You can just grab this. Okay, we can enable this correct face attribute so we don't affect UV, and you can be more precise. What you can do, you can maybe subdivide this to get a double of these vertices, and you can just slide this. We want cut also this part. You can also use C for brush to select, for example, all this, and G. Let's see how we can create texture for this. We can start from scratch. Cardboard, we have this cardboard texture, and we can plug this to base color. Q projection or project from view. Let's open here UV editor. And we can now go with EY, extrude this on y-axis. Here we want unwrap this. I think if we just add few seams, U mark seam, U mark seam, U unwrap. Okay, this work. RZ90. We can now project this to this part of texture here, and we get this, which will not be visible in render, but just to know. Okay, let's go with maybe bump. Plug this to height, because I don't want to set this to non-color. I can go with ramp, color ramp, and let's plug this to normal and increase this value here, so we have some bump. Roughness should be closer to 1, and basically that's it. Cube, SZ, maybe on y-axis, and Control B. We can just go with another cube. SY, L, Shift D, RZ90. Assign same material here, cardboard, U, Q projection. RZ90. Okay, something like this. SX to scale this, and SY. Control J. Now we can join this to one object, and we can save this doll. Now we can just import this in our Blender project. This should be about real world scale. Copy object and paste this doll here, and of course M, other collection. We have this doll, but we need one room for this doll, so we go to timeline, and let's move camera to about here so we can make room for doll. and maybe we can delete faces. Now we can just put our doll, which is somewhere here. We have 700. I will now set this to 900. So our camera stop here, move this wall a little. After camera stop in frame 700, we can animate this doll. So I will first set eye on location and rotation, and to remove this tab, and then we can start animating this doll. I actually want to go to this keyframe RZ90. I want to rotate in this direction. Now I need to update this. And now few keyframes later or frames later, I can press N. I can again I, N. Now I can few frames later go with RZ90, and now I. And we get actually this animation. And of course everything is too fast, so we need more frames here. So we just need make bigger offset here, and it will be slower. To get this jump scare effect, this effect you can just later, for example, eye here, and then maybe just 2 or 3 frames later you can move this closer to camera. I will also move this on x-axis somewhere here, and if I now press I, we actually get this effect. Now we just need play with lighting, so I will go with Shift D, X, place few lights here. I will turn off all these lights, Shift D, Y, and I will turn on some of these lights here. It looks like I delete some of these lightings. Actually I will bring this to black, something like this. Okay, not so important. To get this effect, we actually want to turn on these lights in background, something like this, and then we can see clearly this silhouette here. We also need some of these lightings in this area, Shift DX, because now everything is too dark. And now we can animate these values. For example, if I set keyframe here with I, if I move one frame later, if I do this and I, you can even like animate seed. If I change seed here, we get this light blinking effect. And you can also, of course, animate these lights. For example, if I press I here and then turn on some of these lights, we get this effect. So this is in cycles, and you can see that we can get live preview even in cycles. And now our doll should appear. We can see our doll here. And now we should get this light blinking effect. And one thing I also forget, which I mentioned, is this leaking effect. This is very easy. Actually, what I do, I select this wall. What you can do, you can select this wall, and you can just animate this leaking overlay effect. So if you press I to here, and if you increase this and press I here and enable, of course, this, you get this animation. I forget to animate, so I need set this to 0. Let's move this here to make this slower. Jump to this keyframe, I here and I here. Now go to last frame, 0.4 or something, I here and I here. And I also animate this transparency. So if I go to this keyframe set this to 0, high, and go to last frame, set this to 1. Okay, no, this is leaking overlay. I want this dirt overlay, but it is same, so I will so what I do, I also animate scale, so I first set this to 0 and then to 12. So I think this is all for this tutorial. Thanks for watching and using my products, and see you in next one.